Welcome to Legends and Leaders, where the biggest names and brightest minds in sports share their journeys on and off the field. Hosted by Leo Lewis, former wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings and founder of the Lewis Sports Foundation. This podcast dives into the stories behind the success, from elite athletes to influential figures across the sports world. Get ready for powerful conversations that inspire leadership and legacy. And now to our host, Leo Lewis.
All right. Hello, everybody. Here we are with another version of Legends and Leaders. And I have a dear friend with me today. I think she and I go way back. Our families go way back to St. Paul. And, she's been instrumental in not only mentoring me, but mentoring a number of young women and girls in St. Paul. A longtime administrator for the Minnesota State High School League, Lisa Lissimore. Now, Lisa, we've done this quite a bit, so I appreciate you coming and entertaining the audience as well as the listening audience. I want to make sure that we cover a number of topics, but I want to get to the present day because you just came off of a great college season where your son Kendall played with University of Nebraska in the Big Ten, no less. Yes. Tell me a little bit about how that experience was as a mom sitting in the stands, and the grueling Big Ten season is just unbelievable, isn't it?
Leo, I'm still recuperating. If you really want to know the truth, I really am. I've discovered that I'm not as young as I used to be.
Yeah.
And we have been on the road since February 27th every week.
I bet.
Following Kendall and that Nebraska Husker team. But it was a great experience. Mm-hmm. Kendall decided to transfer his senior year, and we weren't expecting that. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because we really anticipated him staying at St. Thomas, where he had played 3 years and had done extremely well there. Had just finished out his junior year as a 1,000-point getter.
Yeah.
And so we were not expecting him to transfer, but he wanted to play for a Power 5 school and wanted to try and maximize his NIL value. Yeah. And when you can look at your child and see that, okay, Mom and Dad, I don't really need your approval to do this. I'm 22 and I can do this on my own.
Oh, wow.
You better get behind. And so we got behind Team Kendall, and that was our commitment, as it had been,
of course,
his 3 years at St. Thomas, to follow them and cheer them on wherever they were playing. So,
well, you were committed. What was the one thing that convinced you that this was going to be a pretty good season for you as a parent?
Oh my goodness. Part of me was very excited about the fact that he would truly live independent of us.
Okay.
I mean, even though he was at St. Thomas and stayed on campus and in his own apartment, still the family was right there, if he needed anything, or, he'd call. He didn't have his contacts, so I had to bring him an extra set of contacts and things like that. So I was pretty excited for him to have that experience. It was my experience for the most part, so I wanted him to have that as well, because I think there's a lot of growing and development that occurs when you're in situations like that. So, but like you said, we were very committed to supporting what he wanted to do, and I just have to applaud him for having the courage to even know that that's what he wanted to do. So he has grown quite a bit, and I think is a more refined person as a result of this experience. And although it may have not have gone the way he anticipated, he didn't obviously play as much as he did at St. Thomas, but still he's grown, and I can appreciate that. And he managed, the way he navigated that was just unbelievable, because I'm not so sure that his mother could have done that.
Well, but he had good parenting. You and your husband Dennis, you guys were really behind him, and I think that's a testament to you guys too, to help him and support him all the way. So let's get back to your real job for a number of years, and that was administrator at the Minnesota State High School League. I'm wondering, how did that happen? How were you able to get that job? But more importantly, what was the passion about acquiring that job and doing the work that motivated you?
Leo, sometimes, we've often heard this, sometimes you got to be in the right place at the right time, right? And I would honestly say that is what happened to me. I was working for the Minnesota legislature and their public information office as a writer, and I was also coaching. At that time, I was coaching at St. Thomas. However, I had coached at Central for a year, but I had coached 5 years at St. Thomas, and I was very, very happy with what I was doing. Wasn't looking for a job or anything like that. There was a gentleman that came into, that had also worked at the legislature, and he had taken on a different job at an organization called the Minnesota State Education Board or something like that. And they had the appointing rights for the Minnesota State High School League. They could appoint a board member. And he and I had played softball together and had gotten to know each other in our work at the legislature. And he pops in the office and asks if I had 5 or 10 minutes to have some coffee with him. And he says, we have an opportunity to appoint someone on the high school league's board, and I think he would be a perfect person. And I'm like, the what?
What is that?
Yeah. I know I have medals and I have certificates and things like that from this with that name on there, but I had no idea, the degree of work that they were responsible for. And that's how it actually got started, Leo. I went to some of my mentors there in St. Paul and said, this guy came in my office and asked me if I wanted to serve on the high school league's board. I don't want to serve on this board. And that was voluntold that I had to do it. And so as a result, I ended up serving on the board for a year. And during the time that I was there, I learned a ton of things about, the things that the organization was responsible for, and really began to had a greater understanding of their role in the school community. And during that time, that 1 year time period, there was a change in staff, and the then executive director resigned, and then they hired from within, and then that obviously led to an opening there on the staff. And again, I was voluntold that I had to apply for the job, and that's the honest to God truth. I was voluntold to apply for the job because, like I said, I was very happy doing the work that I was doing. And then it really kind of came down to someone saying to me that, these jobs come along every now and then, because if you take a look at the people and even my own career, I stayed there 34 years. And so it's a great job to have, especially if you love sports and if you come at it. I mean, I had the best job ever. I could stage tournaments. I created student recognition programs for the organization. I started their Hall of Fame program, and then had the audacity to do sponsorship and marketing. So I was, able to get out into the communities and do the kinds of things that I enjoyed doing, connecting with people and those kinds of things. It doesn't come much better than that, and that's why 34 years. I still have a hard time fathoming that myself, but
it goes by quick, doesn't it?
I was enjoying what I was doing, and it never felt like work.
Well, you and I reconnected when I was a high school athletic director, because most of the high schools have to come through you guys for these championships, and we were pretty successful at the time. I saw your flexibility. I saw the fact that it was an opportunity for you to look at different sports or manage different sports, particularly at the championship level. And I think that I kind of sense that you kind of like that, the fact that you could have some expertise in managing different sports, girls, boys, and whatever, and then also connect with those different schools.
Absolutely. I always tell a story that I'd never gone to a swim tournament until I ran the state swim meet.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, at that time.
Do you know how to swim?
A little bit. I'm not getting my hair in that.
I know.
Too much work.
I bet.
The last 2 days of the vacation, I might get in there.
I bet.
But same thing, cross country running. I did run track a year, and I did run the 2 mile, believe it or not.
Oh,
I
my
still
gosh.
can't get over that either. And then when the cross country coach wanted me to run while I was at Central, he said cross country. So, I took that literally, like cross country. No, I said absolutely not. And he was a psych teacher at Central, really fun guy named Fred. But anyway, many of those events I'd never, some of those sports I'd never participated in, so I didn't really know a whole lot about them. But I was wise enough to understand that there are a ton of people that work at, that had been working at these events, and I was wise enough to work with them and let them lead, because I didn't have to lead. Let them lead and follow and try and get as much as I could out of them to understand the sport. And I think I did a pretty good job of doing that. I mean, I truly had a vested interest in each of the respective sports that I had, and that included like skiing. I had, at the time, had never been on skis either. It was swimming and diving, both girls and boys. But it's wonderful, and what you discover is that the same passion that I had for basketball is the same passion that all these people have for their respective sport, and all I can do is respect that, So
well, it gave you a broad spectrum of management, which I think, as we know, sports can provide an opportunity for you to transfer those types of skills to any industry that you want.
Absolutely.
And I think managing sport is a skill that you just don't pick up a book and do, because there's just so much flexibility in how you can see how sports and coaches and kids react to being in competition.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that I have enjoyed most about the work that I did at the high school league, quite honestly, was just promoting and selling, if you will, the value of sport participation. And you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter which sport you're in. It's learning all the things that you can about the particular sports, but also understanding that you are, you're going to gain lifetime skills that can apply anywhere in your life, as you indicated. You're absolutely right. And to imagine 34 years, promoting
Where did
the
it all
value
go?
of the sport participation.
I know.
I mean, it was a wonderful thing. Yeah.
Well, sometimes that helps former athletes like yourself to really appreciate sport at a different level.
Absolutely.
But let's go back to when you were a young athlete, when you became a high school athlete and had the fortunate circumstance to occur where you and your teammates played at the highest level that you could play at. Tell me a little bit about the old championship mindset from way back.
Wow, Leo. So I'm going to start. Where I'm going to go back to when I started participating in sport, if I may, and it'll lead right into answering your question, if you will. But I moved into a new neighborhood and had to change schools, and the school was J.J. Hill. And I had never, ever in my life been around more athletic girls. I mean, I loved recess, right? I mean, because I loved running, jumping, shooting, kicking, whatever it was, throwing, dodgeball, all that kind of stuff. Loved that type of competition. But there were so many other girls that loved it too, and that's what we did. And so then I learned that these same girls would spend time down at Oxford Playground after school. Now, I lived quite a ways from Oxford Playground, but they lived very close to it, 3 and 4 blocks away from it. And that's where they said they were going, so I'm having so much fun with them at school, I want to go too. So I get permission from my mom to go, and my goodness, I get down to Oxford, and they literally, 2 years prior to the passage of Title IX, they have a year-round program of sport for girls. So I go there and I start out playing flag football.
Oh, wow.
Wide receiver too. Yes, a wide receiver.
this newfound resurgence of flag football, it's been around for generations.
Yes, 1970.
That's right.
And then once the season ended, we went into the gym and started playing basketball. And again, I'd never touched a football, never touched a basketball. And so we were playing 6-on-6, but we had 2 rovers that went back and forth. So because I've never played before, was on the defensive end, right? And so I get to watch what's happening down on that offensive end. And there was a young woman by the name of Weller Johnson, and I'm telling you, she could throw the ball to you, brother, because she quarterback. She was the quarterback on the boys' team, and then she came over and quarterbacked the girls' team. That's what a great athlete, how great of an athlete she was. And in addition to that, she played on their baseball team. I mean, she was just an outstanding athlete, but she did play with the girls as well. And that's another key point. We had our own teams. We had our own practice time. That is not the story of most women my age,
Correct.
to be honest with you. So if you're 60-something, that was not their experience. I was foolish enough to believe that it was until I began sitting on panels with like women, and they would tell me differently that they played on their brother's team, they hid their ponytails and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But so this group of girls, we all went to junior high school together, and we continued to play basketball there and other sports too. And then we all went to Central, because Central's just up the way from Oxford, and myself and Weller and another person named Rita Birch, we all tried out for Central's team. We were sophomores because high school was 10th through 12th grade. And Rita and I were the two starting sophomores, and then we had Joe Mauer's mother was the guard on the team, and Linda Roberts was our
I was getting ready to say, I wanted to mention Linda. That's when you met Linda then, right?
No, Linda and I are cousins.
Yeah.
So I made that girl great. I'm just
Now,
going to
that
put
is
it out
something
like that.
that's
I
what
made her great. Okay?
Now, if you don't know, and Linda would end up, going to play at the University of Minnesota and is in the Ring of Honor or Hall of Fame.
Still holds 11 records, leading rebounder, lots and lots of wonderful things that we could say about Linda. But I made her great because I missed a few shots so she could rebound.
She could rebound, that's right.
And then the game was inside out, so I had to come down.
That's right.
I was the point, and I had to come down and pass her the ball.
So you ended up going to college for a little bit.
Yeah, I went to college.
Minnesota first, and then
Grandview, I started out at Grandview, which is in Des Moines, Iowa, and I was, like I mentioned about Kendall, trying to get away and live a little more independent. That's what I thought I was doing, going down the street to Des Moines, and it was okay, but it just didn't meet my social expectations, if you want to know the truth, and so. After the season, had a great season, played as much as I wanted to play, but I wasn't happy. And so I decided on my spring break that I was gonna stop in and visit with the coaches at the University of Minnesota, see if they were interested in having me come there, because after I completed high school, everyone thought that I was going to go to the university because I was heavily recruited by them. But the thing is this, at the time, I had one goal, Leo, and I set this goal when I was in 8th grade after reading about Wilma Rudolph and about Althea Gibson. Wilma had a scholarship that paid for her college, and she turned that scholarship into a degree. And in 8th grade, that's what I did. I knew then I had some skill sets, and I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a scholarship, and I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to be the first person in my family to graduate from college as well. So all I knew is I needed a scholarship to go to school. Well, the University of Minnesota wasn't giving me a scholarship. They definitely wanted me to come there, but they wanted me to come as a walk-on. And I had, no real sophistication about, how do you pay for college, didn't even know about grants and all that kind of stuff. I just knew I could get a scholarship, and if they weren't talking scholarship, I wasn't going. And so that's what happened. So lo and behold, I transfer. Still don't have a scholarship, but a year smarter, so I can figure out some things. So
I know the connection that you and I have had over the years. When I was working at the University Athletic Department, you were on one of my committees, and certainly contributed that, and at the same time have always been a voice, a presence in the St. Paul community, primarily for girls and women in sport. And so you started some girls organizations early on. Tell me a little bit about that, and then probably in what we're doing now with your husband regarding Par Seekers.
Okay. Well, again, like you said, born and raised in St. Paul, where in the Rondo community, where that community provided sporting opportunities for both girls and boys. Such a blessing to be in a situation like that. And many of us, Linda Roberts, Gwen Peterson, all of us had a commitment to give back to that community. And so while in college, primarily my senior year or junior year, we discovered that there were no girls in the gym. There weren't gym rats like we were. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it's like, where are the girls? And so after talking to some people, we discovered that, well, you know, they're just not here. So we set out to do a girls basketball evening clinic called the Shooting Stars. And we charged $15 if you came to the week-long camp clinic,
Yeah.
and then $10 for the younger girls, and they were about maybe 4 days because none of us knew how to handle
that's right.
young girls, right? Like young girls, 7, 8, 5, and that type of thing. But we did that, and so what we did was pull together all of our ball-playing friends, and we managed to go down to the Martin Luther King Center. I think at one time we had at Central, so we moved around just a little bit. We even went over to St. Minneapolis because the Minneapolis Police Department provided us with money to come over there to run the tournament, or run the clinic. But primarily we were in St. Paul, but Minneapolis kids did come over there. And we ran this thing for about 20 years, man, and we did not get paid a dime. The best we did was had some snacks or whatever food we brought in for the girls.
Correct.
But it was a place where young women not only learned to play basketball better, but we also took time out of the schedule that week to bring in professionals that worked in sports. So we've had representatives from the Timberwolves. We had obviously representatives from the University of Minnesota. We also did have coaches, some of whom were on our team. But what we wanted to do was not only to show that you can play, but you can also, there's work in sports. And so we wanted to make sure that they saw representation. And oftentimes we did have women coming in to show them that women do these jobs too.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, before you talk about Par Seekers and we finish up here, I want to, make sure I tell the audience you are the Lewis Sports Foundation President's Award winner. So you're one of a few of elite professionals that our foundation recognizes, and certainly you and White, Steve Winfield, Al Nunes, all of you
Linda.
have been and Linda Roberts have been pivotal in noticing the enormous talent in the city, Minneapolis and St. Paul. So I really applaud you with that, and we recognize you for that. So
Well, I appreciate that, Leo. It was quite a surprise and quite an evening, and I still try and come back and support that for you because I believe in what you're doing.
Great. So right now you are helping your husband with this golf event, and how many years has it been?
This will be the 11th year that we sponsor the Par Seekers charitable golf tournament. It was a vision of Dennis's and several other local golfers who wanted to pull together a 2-day flighted tournament.
Correct.
Because there wasn't one here, according to them.
Yeah.
And so we've been doing that, like I said, for 11 years. This year it is June 20th and 21st. It's always the third weekend in June, and it's at Gopher Hills Golf Course. And we pull in anywhere between 100 to 125 golfers from throughout the Midwest and other places. They come from Las Vegas, DC, Maryland, just a lot of different, Oklahoma, Kansas City. Well, I guess that would be the Midwest, but we get a lot of people coming. And then we do the same thing. There are these types of tournaments all over the Midwest. And so our crew in Minnesota goes and support the group in Iowa that sponsor a tournament. There's another tournament in Omaha, and they're just all over Kansas City. And it's really, really a fun, great time. And then a portion of the proceeds do go to a local charity. So it's fun.
Well, that's one of many associations, organizations that you're involved in. Before we leave, the Dave Winfield Foundation is one that you've really been pivotal in accelerating. It's almost 50 years.
It will be. This will be the 50th year that the Winfield Awards, Scholarship Awards, will be presented. And I was actually one of those finalists back in 1978. And that was the second year that the Winfield scholarships were given out at that particular point in time. So
now he doesn't normally show up, but this year you have told me that Dave Winfield, Baseball Hall of Famer,
he will be
All-American baseball player.
He
drafted
will be
in 3
there.
sports. Okay.
He will be there.
He will be there.
He will be there as also that same weekend. The event is the banquet will be May 31st. And Sunday, May 31st.
Yeah.
But on that Saturday, May 30th, they will be unveiling the David Winfield statue over at, oh my goodness, over in St. Paul.
Yes.
So he will be there. So it's going to be a fun weekend.
Good, good.
Salute, uplift this young man that
Yeah.
has done so much for all of
He
us.
has. Yes, he has. Well, Lisa, thank you so much. As always, a friend indeed,
Oh.
a friend in need. Thank you for coming, and really appreciate it. Again, this is Leo Lewis with Legends and Leaders, and my guest is Lisa Lissimore. Thank you. Thanks.
This has been Legends and Leaders with Leo Lewis. Stay connected with the Lewis Sports Foundation to see how these stories are making an impact beyond sports. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep chasing greatness.